In honor of its 5th anniversary, Creator VC will stream the critically acclaimed super documentary In Search of Darkness for a 24-hour limited time on YouTube around 12 a.m. October the 6th. Produced by Robin Block and written and directed by David Weiner of Famous Monsters and Entertainment Tonight, In Search of Darkness is a retrospective of horror cinema that covers various films and topics throughout the 80s timeline. What makes ISOD so brilliant, aside of the guest commentators, is how the documentary tackles topics that were very relevant towards the 80s era of pop culture, whether it's the VHS boom, video nasties, the social political undercurrents such as the AIDS epidemic, America's puritanical approach toward teenage sexuality, objectification of women, and how the final girl trope began, and that's just scratching the surface. Other supplemental topics include soundtracks, behind-the-scene breakdowns, and one of my personal favorites, the debate between practical effects versus CGI, or how 3D films were seen as this gimmick. Wayward Pines does a spectacular job encompassing the documentary via their signature synth soundtrack. There is so much to take in within a span of 4 hours, and it's quite the experience. In Search of Darkness hits that sweet spot for nostalgists and fans of horror. It's the perfect love letter to the decade that redefined popular culture as we know it. As for me, I already own the physical and digital copies, but for those who missed out on the fundraiser, now's your chance to creep into the long-form documentary that has nearly every horror enthusiast as well as reputable sites such as Bloody Disgusting clamoring about. With the spirit of Halloween approaching, now is the time to invest in A Day of Darkness, as well as some spooky gems hidden and not so hidden from the 80s. From Tombstone to Milestone, happy 5th.
I did not see Chris Hargensen as a bitch. Let's start with that. I thought that Chris Hargensen was a pretty cool girl, and this gal, Carrie, that I wouldn't even hang out with, has just screwed things up for me. So there.
Number 1. Chris Hargensen and Billy Nolan. Carrie. These high school antagonists trigger one of the most iconic revenge scenes in film history. Being crowned was likely the happiest moment in Carrie's sad life, but it was immediately ruined by these two tools. Carrie gets her revenge, however, and we can't say that it isn't sweet.
Till we meet again.